Hey Stormers, in this video we will examine recommendations 9 through 14. Recommendation 9, create maintenance and operations positions as a building manager for schools or family of schools, freeing principals from such non-educational tasks. This would include tasks like fire safety or building maintenance, and it would put it in the hands of someone that's more qualified than an educator would be for those things. So that sounds great. This is not one of the government's 11 priorities. Recommendation 10, provide support for accounting and financial functions in schools rather than making them responsibilities of the principals. This recommendation removes this time-consuming task from principals and again puts it in the hands of someone you know that might have a finance degree or something. That would be useful in this area. Not that our principals aren't very, very well educated, but they probably aren't educated in financial accounting or building maintenance. Again, this is not one of the government's priorities. I like both of these. Do you know what? I would like my collegial model principal teacher to still be rewarded with these. If it's a managerial position, why can't they be responsible for all of that? Because they're sure not going to help me with my teaching. Recommendation number 11. Ensure teachers have the mobility and choice to work in any region in Nova Scotia by removing barriers in the collective agreements while maintaining seniority rights. Okay, we'll get back to that part. This is one of the government's 11 priorities. So first of all, let's talk about this part where it says removing barriers in the collective agreements while maintaining seniority rights. Removing barriers in the collective agreements. That means taking things out of the collective agreements, things that have been negotiated. So again, that's going to be challenged in court and that's going to cost Nova Scotians money. You know, just around the time when our children are finishing high school and starting to pay taxes. So the students right now, they'll be paying for these court challenges. The second part, how can they maintain seniority rights when every board and regional collective bargaining agreements have a different way of accumulating seniority? Some boards accumulate seniority from the minute that you have a full-time position, permanent contract. Some boards build seniority from the moment you have a term contract. When they mesh all these people together, there will be losers and there will be winners. There will be people that have both taught 10 years, but because someone's term started 5 years before, that person will be higher on the seniority list. Yeah, so some people should be worried about this one. You know, and in my opinion, the part where it says ensure teachers have the mobility and choice to work anywhere they'd like, I mean, that sounds nice. If I want to move to Halifax, I could, I guess, if there's an opening, you know. But that is a trick. It really is not about the teachers having the choice to move. What they're actually saying is, we, your employer, will be able to freely move you to where there are teacher shortages. As the seniority lists melt together, some people will transfer towards urban areas, some people will transfer towards rural areas, but most likely more people will transfer towards urban areas. That should be a great concern to rural communities. So what about those rural schools? What about the people who are lower on the seniority lists that will be surplused out of their schools when the principals return to the classrooms? When someone is surplused in Halifax because the seniority lists are meshed together, They have a partner that has a job in Halifax. Their kids go to school in Halifax. Their kids play hockey in Halifax. Their kids' friends and family live in Halifax. But that teacher's been surplus, and the government will say, "Oh, you know what? You're right, and you've earned the right to a full-time contract, and you are a full, permanent teacher. So we will find you a job, and we found one for you. It's in Cape Breton." So some people out there might think, well, this is great because this will solve the problem of the teacher shortages. No, it won't. What it will do is encourage more people to leave the profession or to leave the province where they can work where they want to work. Nothing against Cape Breton, because I love Cape Breton. Some rural schools have a hard enough time filling their schools with teachers or keeping their teachers more than 2 or 3 years as it is right now. That problem will only get worse. And when you're having problems filling your schools with staff, and they're talking about closing your schools, and you want to call your school board, there will be no school board. Yeah. Recommendation number 12. Create a coordinated professional development system for teachers and principals, tied directly to teaching standards, student achievement, curriculum priorities, such as math, literacy, and culturally responsive teaching, and learning strategies that can be readily implemented in their classrooms. If it was a collegial model still, and this was a recommendation, if it was the way it is now with the principal teacher deciding what they identify as professional learning for their staff, I'd be all for this recommendation. But since it will be attached to a manager that will not know anything about teaching, they'll only know the words in the curriculum document, and they'll only be responding to standardized test data, this recommendation also scares me so much. Why should we be concerned about professional development only being around standardized test data? Well, standardized tests are extremely culturally biased. They don't measure potential, they don't measure creativity, they don't measure critical thinking. And when you're trying to raise people up that are aware of cultural differences and can think critically and challenge things when they're wrong, which is what I'm trying to do, this is a huge problem. Recommendation, but this is not one of the government's 11 priorities. Recommendation 13, make clear the importance of extracurricular activities, sports, and community volunteers. This sounds fantastic. Make those priorities clear. But be cautious. That's a message to the teachers. Be cautious about this one. Does this have to do with changing our contract to include these activities, but of course not compensating us for them, so that if we were ever fighting for our rights once again, that work to rule would never affect the winter concert or the dances again? I wouldn't put it past them. But this is not one of the government's 11 priorities. Recommendation number 14. Oh, lovely. Create an independent student progress assessment office, taking responsibility away from the department, arm's length thing again, remember? And establishing an assessment division to develop high quality student assessments, reporting directly to the public on province-wide results. Why would it be important for the public to know which schools did what on those tests? And ensuring the assessments are aligned with the curriculum. First, assessments are big business. Standardized tests are big business. They do not measure potential, creativity, critical thinking, or anything else that we need in the future. They are extremely culturally biased. They're just no good. I don't even know how to say it any differently. And the public looking at schools and saying, oh, well, look at what Glooscap did on theirs. Their standardized tests, look where they are, or look where Port Williams is, or look where, whatever school. And the public thinking, well, they must not have very good teachers there. How the kids perform on these standardized tests is going to be the way that the parents judge and the public judge how good the teaching is there. So I'm just going to throw out an idea. Do you think maybe, children having enough good breakfast could affect the results of a standardized test? Do you think that maybe the children having access to community recreation could affect the standardized test results? Do you think that parents of these children having access to a family doctor or access to affordable housing could have an effect on these standardized tests? I think that they do. But that's not what people will read, and that's not what people will be, those numbers will be spun for. They'll be used as another tool to push the public against the teachers that are working very hard to try to keep their communities together. The second thing to notice about this recommendation is that it is creating another bureaucratic entity to keep education an arm's length away from the ministry. So again, they don't have to be responsible or, accountable for what's going on in their system. That will be the job of whatever this thing is called, this assessment thing. And third, I like the wording of it, assessing student progress. Because student progress is something I'd be interested in us tracking. Because people progress at their own rates. And progress can't be limited. And progress can't be standardized. But somehow I think that is not what they are talking about. Needless to say, this is not one of the government's 11 priorities. All right, that's all for now. I'm off to a King's Local Union event. Can't wait to see my friends and have a little chat with them and see how they're all doing on this fine February the 13th. I might try to get to 15 to 22 later tonight. If not, by the end of tomorrow, we can kiss these recommendations or the recommendations part of this video series goodbye on Valentine's Day. We can say, see you later, because I'm finishing them tomorrow and we're going to get into some reasons why the government might be doing all of this. So keep watching. I've put all of the videos that have already been made and this one onto a YouTube channel. So now you can share it with people that might not be on Facebook. Please follow the link of the video to get there. Okay, talk to you soon, and remember, together we are the storm.